Joe Burrow is back, but is bigger actually better? That answer coming up on Enter the Jungle. Hi again, everyone, and welcome into Cincinnati Bengals Talk. I'm James Rapien. He is Andrew Fox Miller, and this is Enter the Jungle, airing every single Tuesday at 8 Eastern right here on CBT, weekly on Bally Sports. Shout out to Tipico Sportsbook, who, Andrew, this week, by the way, uh, loaded up my pockets a little bit thanks to some Tipico Sportsbook action in the Tipico app.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah. And you know what I was doing? I was drinking garage beer at the same time. The NBA playoffs are here, and that means I get to watch them. And I also can, well, shout out our sponsors for making them even more fun for me. And so, with that said, there goes the NBA portion of the show. Let's dive into the Joe Burrow portion of the show, because if you don't know, now you know, and you did know. Joe Burrow is back. He practiced last week, was all systems go, practicing again this week and throwing to the rookies now, including Jermaine Burton. And that's just awesome to see. But is bigger actually better? Andrew, when you saw, and you're going to hear from Joe Burrow in just a second, but when you saw that Joe Burrow said that he was stronger, that he was bigger, what was your first reaction?
I'll take it. I mean, I don't know how it really relates to a wrist injury. I'm no doctor, James, but I would say that any extra durability, anything to give him an edge over an already great player. I don't know that I think I'm more like, just tell him, can he throw? Can he throw? Once we had that, I'm like, all right, status quo. Like, I feel like we're kind of back on board now. That's all I needed. So that's all bonus to me. Bigger, better, bonus.
Yeah, bigger, better bonus Burrow. Yeah, if you want to go that route, I certainly think that works. Here's what stood out to me, and in fact, I'll give you what stood out to me watching Joe coming up in just a second. But first, this is Joe on him adding muscle and why he decided to get bigger this offseason.
We're bigger, definitely bigger. We'll see where I'm at the end of the offseason. I feel good about where my body is at right now. I'm going to continue to get stronger and bigger throughout the offseason and just kind of play it by ear depending on how I feel. Like I said, I'm in a good spot right now. I'm really strong, bigger than I was. We're going to continue to eat right, lift, and go through my routine and see where I'm at.
The thing I love about Joe Burrow is he's always wanted to get bigger, stronger, faster. He's a gym rat. Is always in the gym. Has not been shy about discussing that. I do think that the bigger matters, that the stronger matters, because he's doing it while also getting quicker. He looked as explosive as I've seen him, Andrew, last week and this week so far, just rolling out, moving, and he was throwing on the move, working on that element. He had thrown plenty from the pocket already, so he's just working on things with the wrist, like you mentioned. But just the way he was moving, I was like, man, he's been working on that. And so, why do so many people love Josh Allen? Why did so many people love Cam Newton? And I'm talking about athletic freaks that Joe will never be like, but because they were big, strong, fast. Well, Joe Burrow's trying to get bigger, stronger, faster. I think it makes sense. I think the logic is there. Will it help him stay healthy? I have no idea. Will it make him a better quarterback when he is healthy? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, I mean, and I would imagine if you're rehabbing a wrist injury, there's some extra leg days involved. You're gonna be maybe a little bit more explosive, a little bit faster. Just a theory. I don't know. You're a gym rat, James. You tell me.
Yeah, I certainly think that's it. I think what you can do is all of the footwork stuff. I'm not sure you're actually squatting more often or doing things like that, but you can do the explosive stuff, the plyometric stuff, the the things that if you're watching this, the weird jumps and hops and all of those things that actually really help the explosive drills. Those are the things that get you more explosive. You could squat all day and it's not really going to do anything. But the hop jump squats with no weight or with a resistance band with a trainer behind you. Those are the things that I think he was working on and has been working on for months now. And obviously those have shown up and have had a factor in his off season. That said, the durability part of it is going to be a topic now nationally, locally, when it comes to Joe Burrow. Two of his 4 seasons have ended in injury. By the way, I was looking on Monday. Both happened in week 11. I didn't put that together. Both season-ending injuries. His rookie year, week 11 in Washington, and then week 11 in Baltimore this past year. will getting bigger and stronger prepare his body to take more hits, keep him healthier? Here was Joe's response.
I don't know. That's what we're going to find out. That's kind of a work in progress of somebody's career. You're always growing and learning, and I'm trying something new this year, so we'll see how I feel when the season rolls around, when camp rolls around, when we're on the field every day. But I don't know the answer to that. We're going to find out.
We will find out, but I do think that there really isn't a downside to doing this. I can't really think of it. And I dismiss both of these injuries to a degree. Almost every quarterback suffers a torn ACL at some point. You're standing in the pocket, you get hit. The wrist seemed like a really freak injury to me, where you just land wrong and something happened that no other quarterback. Joe Burrow couldn't find a quarterback that has dealt with this wrist injury. He tried to find one, and there wasn't one. That's crazy. And so, and I'm sure he looked in college too. It wasn't just NFL. So the fact that he could be back, and not just back, but better in a bunch of different areas, I think is got to bring a smile to our viewers' faces, to Bengals fans' faces for sure.
100%. I agree with everything you're saying. No other comment other than Joe's response to that question in that press conference. It's exactly what I would have answered as someone that's not Joe Burrow. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, yes, it's unprecedented. I can't imagine the fact that no other quarterback, I know other players at other positions have dealt with it, like he said, but it's interesting, curious, a little scary because of the unknown. But I guess if there's anyone out there to kind of set the standard or to set the example for getting through something like this, it's QB9.
Yeah, it is. Or QB1, if you want to call him that. But I get it. I get what you meant by QB9. My thoughts on Amarius Mims, rookie minicamp, Jermaine Burton, and much, much more still ahead. But up next, hear the most important thing Joe Burrow said during his 20-minute presser with the media last week, and why it's a major factor in the Bengals' Super Bowl chances this season. You'll hear that clip coming up next, right here on Enter the Jungle. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. He's Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien, and this is Cincinnati Bengals Talk in Bally Sports. And Andrew, let's dive into the most important thing Joe Burrow said last week, because we hadn't heard from Joe Burrow in a few months, and he discussed the wrist injury. He discussed throwing. He discussed how he's bigger, stronger, faster. But the most important thing he said was about growing, and not growing physically, growing mentally.
I'm growing and learning how to, handle my body. I think that's a continued process of learning, when to push through something that you think, maybe might be there, and another day, you might not be feeling great, and, this muscle's a little tight, like, hey, we got to take it easy today. So that's something that I'm continuing to learn. I think that's part of growing as a player and as a pro, and it's a continued process day in and day out.
What injury do you think that clip was about? That comment was about?
I would assume calf gate, right? The whole calf situation.
For sure. And people are going to think, all right, calf, it's because he played week 1 against the Browns and then week 2 against the Ravens and then couldn't move against the Titans 2 weeks later. No. It goes all the way back to July 26th, when he had the best practice I've ever seen him practice. July 26th of training camp last year. It was his first training camp practice of the year, and Joe Burrow looked insane. You want to talk about strength? There. Explosion? There. Arm strength was there. It looked like he was ready to compete in the Super Bowl, like mid-season form minimum.
Was that headband Burrow?
It was still headband Burrow, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And so he was coming out, and it was just lasers everywhere, rocketing the ball, on target. And then he comes out the next day, and it's a 2-hour practice. It's a really hard practice. People get on Zach Taylor for soft practices. This was not. It was a hard practice. It was really hot out. Comes out the next day, and he's got a calf sleeve on. And you know what I see? I see him doing the same stuff, rolling out, explosive, planting, stopping, starting, all of the things. Another 2-hour practice. I'm dripping in the sun, and I'm not running or doing it. I'm just sitting there in a polo, standing there in a polo. And what happens? Well, he hurts his calf in the last session of practice. It's the last little portion of it, and suffers that calf strain. Why was he wearing that calf brace because he felt a little tightness. Well, you got to learn that maybe you don't need to practice on July 27th as hard as you possibly can when your calf is tight. That doesn't mean you don't go out there and throw some, but that's what caused all of that. It was a ripple effect where he kind of gets back from the calf, but then he can't move. Well, and now this is hurting him a little bit because he's taking more hits, and then this is hurting him, and then that, and it kind of rolled into where I'm not sure Joe Burrow, and he played at a really high level before the wrist injury. Like going into that Baltimore game, he was awesome. They obviously had that winning streak, and then lost to Houston. He was good against Houston though, 4 days prior. But even so, I don't really think we ever saw truly healthy Joe Burrow last year at any point. And so for him to say that, I think it's a huge step forward for him because we don't need to see you July 27th, Joe. We need to see you in September when games start to matter.
Yeah, I do think I agree in your assessment that this is probably the most important thing that he said last week from Burrow to be that open about it and just sort of, we'll call it admit it right in that moment. That's huge. Now, he says it. Let's see it put into practice. It's a bit unfortunate. I'm not going to sit here and say, okay, well, let's talk about the past and, things should have been done differently and reminisce on everything that could have been done different. I'm not going to do that. But 27 years old, you'll be 28 this season. Lessons learned. I respect it. But let's see those lessons get learned. Let's actually put it into practice, Joe. I just get a little nervous. We're learning lessons at this magnitude at this point in our career. We gotta turn it around. What are we doing? I don't know.
Well, there's a couple things there because I thought about that too. You're like, all right, well, he's gotten to this level. Don't you know that you're all right not going full go in camp?
Yep.
But he missed so much time. Like he was this star quarterback at Athens, and then he goes to Ohio State and he just doesn't play and doesn't play and doesn't play, and then has a chance to compete and has an injury and doesn't play, and then has to transfer. And I think that sticks with you where you're like, I'm playing through anything. I'm not missing a day. And the ramp up period to me should be part of training camp still, where you're not your best on July 28th. No one remembers that, or 27th. No one gives it, quite frankly, none of our viewers care that I witnessed the best practice Joe Burrow's ever had, at least with my eyes, at July 26th. Why? Because on July 27th, that injury caused a snowball effect for the entire year. And it's not all on Joe or on the medical staff or on whatever. But not being fully 100% full go in July is much, much different than playing through something in season. And I think those are two different things either. I don't blame the Bengals for playing Joe Burrow week 1 last year. I don't blame him for playing in any of those games. But in July, it's just camp. And that's the big difference. And I think that's the balance where you don't want a little small thing. It's going to be a few days of camp to turn into a big thing that is now impacting you, not only week 1, but impacting you into October. And we're discussing it for 3 months, a quarter of the year, a calendar year, not season. And that's what the case was with Joe Burrow. Up next, it's time to talk rookies. Rookie minicamp was in the books last week. The rookies are with the veterans this week. My takeaways and maybe some thoughts from Andrew Fox Miller as well coming up next.
Welcome back. This is Enter the Jungle. I'm Andrew Fox Miller. This is James Rapien. James, you were there firsthand for rookie minicamp. This is something I look forward to this every year. Rookie minicamp, I know it doesn't get heavily publicized. It's not like it's broadcasted anywhere in real time, but it's everything that you've wanted to build towards the draft. You get the players that you wanted, maybe some that you didn't want, maybe some you were surprised about. Either way, they're all out on the field, figuratively, literally, it's happening. You were there. What's the biggest thing that stood out to you being on that field last week?
Well, what I look for, and it's literally an hour, to be clear, it's an hour. But what you look for is, all right, does the guy look the part? And it's not just this year, any year. So Jamar Chase a couple of years ago, Dax Hill 2 years ago, last year Miles Murphy, this year Amarius Mims. And man, I really wonder about his size. I'm not sure he's big enough. Kidding. I mean, this dude, he's just a freak. And he's standing next to other offensive linemen, and he looks different. and certainly looks the part. And not just because of his size, but because how he's moving at that size, going through drills with Frank Pollock. So that stood out. And it's not just him, it's the eye test for all of these guys. So Chris Jenkins, does he pass the eye test as he's working with Marion Hobby? McKinley Jackson as well. Here's what I'll say. Chris Jenkins, explosive, strong, moves really well. I think he's going to contribute right away. And McKinley Jackson, the thing that stood out is for his size, how well he moved. I said the same thing about Miles Murphy last year, which again, it doesn't mean any of these guys are going to have success or that they're not going to have success, but you want to see if they look the part, right? So if it's a fast receiver, you want to see them be fast. Or if it's a guy with great hands, i.e. Jermaine Burton, well, how does he do when the quarterback overthrows him pretty high and he's got to reach up for it? Well, he goes up and he snags it, right? And we saw that with Jermaine Burton, even on quick routes where bullets were being thrown at him and, a bullet passes and he's got to jump up and catch one and he's able to do that. Yeah, I think that these guys all stood out in that way from an eye test perspective. The other one was Josh Newton. Stood out to me for sure. Just the way he was backpedaling, showing off his agility, going through the cornerback drills. And then he was a natural hands catcher too. And he had good ball skills at TCU. So hopefully that transfers. But no, I think rookie minicamp wise, it was like checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. Again, it's a small sample. And so you just want to see if they can check that box. And the top guys that they picked certainly did.
Yeah, I can say of the footage that you had and you brought from rookie minicamp, and I assume the fan base in general, all eyes were on Jermaine Burton. Is he the real deal? Is he going to fulfill the roles left behind by whether it's a Tyler Boyd or even some of these younger guys that have an opportunity to kind of be that maybe wide receiver 3 on this team? And I liked what I saw. And I'm going to throw this out there, extra credit, James. I like that someone finally asked him about number 81 on his jersey. Didn't like his answer. I mean, he just kind of said, I'm just happy to be here. Okay. All right, fine. Thanks, Jermaine. But thanks for delivering. We talked about that last week and you didn't do it though. I guess I couldn't give you all the credit, but it was done.
I didn't because I kind of think we all know the answer. That's why I'm not saying it wasn't bad to get him on record, but you could tell he didn't want to touch that question at all. Has never worn 81 before, is wearing 81 now. We'll see if that continues this season. But up next, you mentioned him. The Bengals said goodbye to a key piece of their team last week. We'll reminisce and honor a Bengals great coming up next. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. He's Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien, and a Bengals great is headed to Nashville, and Tyler Boyd is joining him. Former Bengals wide receiver, spending 8 seasons in Cincinnati. And let's start with you, Andrew. What will you think of when you think of Tyler Boyd and the 8 years he spent here?
The big picture for me is that prior era of the team and going into the new era, having a Super Bowl appearance, appearing in 2 AFC championship games. Like, I think big picture in that regard, but man, there were some fun moments too, right? And I think we talk about ripple effects earlier in this episode. There's a great one in the 4th and 12 against Baltimore when Tyler Boyd scores a touchdown. They have the reaction of the Bills reacting to them upsetting the Ravens, and that built sort of a relationship, whether it was a fan base or it was some level of media organization, of sort of a mutual appreciation for one another that has kind of continued to this day in different ways, shapes, and forms. So that one stands out to me as far as a memory that has kind of gone from old to new.
Yeah, I think when I think of Tyler Boyd, I'll start with him as a rookie. So he gets drafted in 2016, 53rd overall, I believe, and love the pick. Remember loving the pick at the time. They needed a receiver bad. And it was my first full year, like, or in a regular basis, at least my first season. And so I tried to gravitate towards the rookies and get to know the rookies because it was an older locker room, right? You're talking Andy Dalton, AJ Green, guys like that were established, been there, done that, Tyler Eifert. And so really from day one, Tyler was always good to me, always willing to talk, whether it was on the mic or for audio at the time when I was working at 700 WLW and 1530, ESPN 1530, or now when he talks after losses that stunk, the loss to the Chiefs, he got injured in that game. He was willing to talk about that. Any number of games, he's willing to talk, and I've always had a good relationship with him. Another thing that stood out was in 2017, he was a healthy scratch. And this was after having like 600 plus yards as a rookie, healthy scratch under Marvin Lewis. And people are like, man, this guy's going to be a bust in Cincinnati. Like, he's not going to be able to cut it here. And I never believed that. I thought he would be a good player and he could do a lot. And he was underused as a rookie, especially in that offense. That was the Brandon LaFell. That was the year where they were really bad on offense after 2015. And I talked to him about it. And he sat at his locker and he was like, I'm going to be good here. I'm going to be good somewhere else. Like, his confidence didn't change. He always believed in himself. And there aren't many guys that will do that or feel that way when they're a healthy scratch. I think it was a primetime game too. And so I'll remember that because he was right. Not only did he turn it around that year and have the Baltimore catch, which got Marvin Lewis another year. You're welcome, Marvin. But it also propelled him to become their wide receiver one when AJ Green had injuries, propelled him to get another contract here, which led to the next era of going to a Super Bowl, going to back-to-back AFC championship games. And then I do agree with him. Losing to the Chiefs in that AFC championship game, I don't think it happens if Tyler Boyd's healthy. They were able to double T. Higgins and double Jamar Chase, and it just changed the Bengals offense. That's why they want to be more multiple now and be more explosive into all of these things, so they're not as easy to guard. And they were easy to guard after Tyler Boyd went down in that game. So, Tyler, good luck in Nashville, and well, we'll see you this season when the Bengals play the Titans on the road.
One, as far as him going to the Titans, perfect. Not the Chiefs, not the Steelers. I'm good. Lastly, fans have said, what if Tyler Boyd takes away the 83, goes to 3? We get our 5-1-3. Speaking of Jermaine Burton, didn't happen, but he leaves the Bengals with 513 career receptions. So there you go, a little poetic.
It is poetic, no doubt about it. Good luck, Tyler. And that is going to do it for us. He is Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching Into the Jungle.